Hi, I'm Andrea. Thank you for joining me for this 30-minute yoga practice. I think it would be a really good idea to have a chair for this practice. I'm going to have you do something I'm not sure we've gotten into quite this way before if you've been practicing with me, and a chair might be just the right tool. Also, a couple of blocks. Maybe you've got yoga blocks. If you don't, you can absolutely substitute a couple of thick books, and they may do the trick. If you don't have a yoga mat, find a place in your house that's not too slippery. Maybe a carpeted area, or you've got a rug somewhere, and that can be your yoga mat today. Also a folded blanket, or in my case, a very faded towel. Maybe use the throw blanket from your couch. And although I'm barefoot, if you're more comfortable with your shoes on, then just leave your shoes on. We'll start, as we often do, in our foundational pose, mountain pose, with our feet hip distance. Palms turn away. We gaze at what I like to call our bright horizon. And we find majestic mountain posture. Ears over shoulders, over hips, over heels. And we find our breath. If you can, in and out through your nose. Mostly, I'd like you to breathe with awareness. And I'd like for us to stand here and stop so that we can start. Now step wide on your yoga mat or your pretend yoga mat and take your arms out to the side with your thumbs to the sky. And we'll start with our ankles underneath our wrists. Usually I have to adjust further from there, but it's a good starting point. Turn your right leg out so that your right foot is facing the short edge of your mat, and then cheat your back heel at a 45-degree angle. Let's try it on for size. Bend your front knee. We don't want our knee further forward than our ankle, so if you're like me, we need more space. And then it's a vertical line from our knee to our ankle. And then take your arms overhead in a V shape as you straighten your front leg. We're going to go back and forth here. Bend your front knee, warrior two. Let's call that our exhale. And then inhale, straighten your front leg, and take a V shape overhead. Bending and straightening. Be playful with it. This is dynamic movement that's going to help us warm up. It also helps us to organize our breath with the exhale, bending our knee, and the inhale, straightening our leg, and we'll go back and forth. Let's do about 3 more of these. If your tempo's different than mine, fantastic. It's what makes the world go round. Now next time you are bending your knee, stay with it. Thumbs to the sky. Let's refine a little bit as we stay. The outer edge of your back foot is solid and the arch is lifted, so we're not letting that back foot collapse, or back leg collapse, as the case may be. Your right thigh is moving to the right and your right hip is hugging underneath you, and it's really just mountain pose from the waist up. We stay here for 3. You can always lower your arms if it's too long with your arms up. 2 more. Lower your arms and straighten your front leg and turn all of your toes to face this long edge of your mat. Now put a little bit of bend in your knees, just a soft bend, and take your hands onto your thighs. Traction your hands onto your thighs as you hinge at your hips. We're not going to let our head go lower than our hips, so we're just thinking of like the slightest straightening of our legs, a hinge at our hips, and an elongation of our spine. And then we'll come upright and turn this boat around. Our stance is the same, I'm hoping, I'm thinking. So turn your left leg out, left foot faces the short edge of your mat, back foot at a 45-degree angle, thumbs to the sky, bend your front knee, just double check and see, maybe a little adjustment does need to be made, in my case anyway. The inhale is our V shape and we straighten the front leg, and we'll go back and forth, and we're trying to coordinate exhale, bending our knee, and inhale, straightening our leg. So try that on for size, back and forth. Exhaling and inhaling, and just appreciating that this dynamic movement serves as a warm-up and as some breath awareness. when we use breath guiding the movement, it makes us aware of both our breath and our movement, and they're danced together. The next time you bend your front knee, let's stay, and let's build this one from the ground up. So stamp into your left heel. Feel the outer edge of your right foot, and then the uplift of its arch. We're in mountain pose from the waist up. Our left thigh bone is moving to the left, and our left hip is hugging underneath us. So we're not letting it be sticking our butt out. It's hugging underneath. And we have 2 more moments here. You're welcome to lower your arms and then bringing them back up again if that feels better. And then all of us will lower our arms and straighten our front leg, and then turn all toes to face the long edge of your mat. Heel toe, so that we're hip distance and able to move about the cabin. This is where I highly recommend using the chair. Even if you don't usually use it for triangle, I have a surprise for you afterwards. So here is our setup, and we're always very mindful about that. I'm going to get my towels out of the way. Now, first I'll move my chair, and it is halfway down my mat. So let me show you where it's situated and how. And it may need to kind of move from this position, but this is a good starting point. The seat is facing my mat, and then I'm going to take, just in case I want to use them, my 2 blocks off the edge of my mat. So again, not positioning them underfoot. And they are at either long end. So you can see my little setup here, and then you can do it yourself with whatever toys you're working with. And we'll take our wide stance, thumbs to the sky. Standing with our ankles underneath our wrists. Turn your right leg out. Cheat that left heel at a 45-degree angle. Now what we're not doing is a side bend. So I want to make that really clear. This is a hinge at your hips. So think sass with your left hip and a hinge at your right hip, and you reach out long. Now this is where you might very well decide to use the seat of your chair, and I'm moving my chair to do that, with your right hand down and your left arm up to the sky. You can also use your block at its tallest, but I want us to be very mindful that we're not letting our side bend happen, or that our head gets any lower than our hips. So I'm going to go ahead and use the chair example. You're welcome to do the block if you prefer it. Now sometimes holding our arm up like this gets a little bit tiresome, so you can always bring the back of your left hand to the small of your back, but every one of us is elongating our bottom ribs, and then we're rotating those bottom ribs to the sky. And I'd like you to feel a press of your right big toe mound into your mat, and notice how that turns on all of the muscles in your right leg. We'll take a moment here in our triangle, and I'd like you to know that you have the option to stay in triangle the whole time. You don't have to do this next shenanigan that I'm going to throw your way. And this is the promised shenanigan that is a little bit different than we usually do. Imagine that you wanted to balance this triangle on only your right leg. Imagine it. You might even make it happen. Look down so that you know where you're going. Remember, your left hand can be behind your back or arm to the sky, or it might be most helpful to take your left hand onto your hip. It helps with what's called proprioception, where we are in space. Now, as you look down, keep your right hand solid on the seat of your chair, and see if you can take your triangle for a fly, and just lift that left leg back behind you with your hand on your chair for a moment. Remember, you don't have to. Not required. You could even take left hand to the sky or left hand behind your back here. We will return to our triangle with our friends who maybe opted to stay there the whole time, and get solid as we stick our landing. Maybe you take that left hand to the sky or behind your back while we're here, and then just 2 more moments. Firm through your feet and your belly. Come all the way upright and turn all of your toes to face that long edge of your mat. I'm going to propose that we heel toe and move our props, because I think the majority of us are going to be using a chair, and you're going to need to have your feet together to relocate that. Again, my friends using blocks, maybe you don't need to do that, but why not? Join us. And then we will return to our wide stance. thumbs to the sky, ankles underneath wrists. Turn your left hip out so that your left foot faces the short edge of your mat. So you're turning your left leg out, not really your hip, but it's happening at your hip. And then cheat your right heel at a 45-degree angle. Thumbs to the sky, no side bending, hinging, reaching way out. So it's like a little karate chop at your left hip, and your right hip is lifted. Then left hand onto your chair or block if that's you. Right thumb to the sky. We're pressing now into our left big toe mound, and it could be that you prefer to bring the back of your top hand to the small of your back. So especially if it starts to feel pinchy in that right shoulder. We'll let this have its moment. And like I said on the first side, this might be where you remain the whole time, and that's great. 2 more moments here. You can keep your arm to the sky or your hand behind your back. I like my hand on my hip. It gives me an idea of where I am in space. And then you look down, and even if it's just imaginary, so maybe you start by just imagining that it's possible, we'll stand on our left foot. Our left hand is on our chair, and then we lift our right leg behind us as if it was just a floating little triangle. If you want your right arm up or your right hand behind your back while we're here, great. It can also stay on your hip the whole time. 2 moments where we are. If it's wobbly, it means that we've struck gold. We're learning something new. Never a bad thing. Now take a look down so that you know where you are, just in case you looked off to the side, and step it gently back into triangle. And once we've stuck our landing, free your right arm up to the sky and firm through your belly. Come all the way upright, and then turn all of your toes to face that long edge of your mat. We probably need a wider stance, even though we're still wide. So heel toe out a little bit so that your ankles are under your wrists. Turn your right leg out and cheat your left heel at 45 degrees. Bend your front knee. We're in Warrior 2 again. And this time, right forearm across your thigh, left arm up to the sky. You might check and make sure that you've got your knee over your ankle, and then back to Warrior 2. This time, left hand light as a feather on your left leg, and right thumb to the sky. And we come back to Warrior 2. It's dynamic again, but a different dance. Right forearm across the thigh, left arm to the sky. Back to our Warrior 2. And then left hand down your left thigh, right thumb to the sky, and we're back to Warrior 2. If you need to straighten and rebend the front knee, you can. Right forearm across the thigh, left thumb to the sky, and then back to Warrior 2. Left hand down your back leg, right thumb to the sky. Are you hugging your right hip underneath you as we do this? Warrior 2. Forearm across the thigh, left thumb to the sky. Back to Warrior 2. Right thumb to the sky, left hand down your left leg. We'll do each part of this one more time. Down the middle, forearm across the thigh. Left thumb to the sky. To our Warrior. And then left hand down the thigh, right thumb to the sky. Stay here for a moment and straighten your front legs slowly. Oh, it feels so good. And then come upright and turn all of your toes to face that long edge of your mat. Bring a slight bend to your knees. Remember, we did this at the beginning, hands on your thighs, a hip hinge. Our heads stay higher than our hips, but we press into our thighs and extend our spine away from our thighs. And then we'll come upright and turn our left leg out so that our left toes face the short edge of our mat, and then right heel cheats back. Warrior 2, thumbs to the sky. Might be a good idea to check on that vertical line. Left forearm across your thigh, right thumb to the sky, left hip's hugging underneath us, not swinging to the right, and then we come through Warrior 2, and it's our right hand so light on the right leg with our left thumb to the sky. Back to Warrior 2. Forearm across the thigh, right thumb to the sky. Back to Warrior 2. Right hand down your right leg, left thumb to the sky. It's called Dancing Warrior. And then back to Warrior 2. Remember, as you bring your forearm across your thigh and your right thumb to the sky, you can straighten and rebend anytime. And maybe this is the place where you take your right hand down the thigh. You could straighten right now and rebend. And back to warrior two. Forearm across the thigh. Just a couple more rounds if you don't mind. Back to warrior two. And reverse it, light as a feather on your right leg. One more round. Forearm. Warrior two, and then reverse, and this time we'll pause and straighten the front leg. And then upright we go, turning all toes to face the long edge of our mat. Heel toe, heel toe. We bring our feet together and we stand in our mountain pose and allow that to digest. Let's take care of some of our toys. Let's get our props out of the way. So just chair out of the way. Maybe you want it to use the back of your chair for some balance in this next pose. So if you feel like that might be helpful, you can keep it not underfoot, but somewhere where you can get to the back of it. And then I will just clean up the blocks out of the way so I know where they are if I need them for something else. Actually, take one of them with you. You might enjoy using that for our next pose. We'll set it off to the side so again it's not in the way. And we will bend our knees for a little bit of a chair pose, thumbs to the sky. Stand onto your right leg and then take your left knee towards your chest. Now you can take a kickstand with your left foot on the outside of your right foot, and that's where you might take the block to the outside of your right foot. And then as you kickstand it up and over, just place it, ball of the foot on the block. So that's one option that I kind of forgot about, honestly, until just this moment. But you could use it, and it can help with balance. That in the back of your chair. Now, it's great to stay just like this, or bend your right knee a little bit deeper, and then it's more like you're seated cross-legged. So you could do it that way if it works, or use your block on the outside of your right foot for your left toes to find, or the ball of your left foot. And then arms out in front of you like you're going to give me a hug. Cross at your elbows and give yourself a hug. So you got right elbow on top of left elbow here. So opposite elbow if you don't mind. I should have led with that, but I forgot. And it can stay here, or you can make it like an eagle wing, like an eagle feather. So it's either giving yourself a hug with your right elbow on top, maybe bringing your forearms together and maybe placing your hands together. You could also just bring your forearms together like you're doing a very long extended prayer position. So there's a few different options depending on what feels good to you. It's eagle pose. 2 moments where we are. Unwind, step down with your left foot. Just be mindful, know where your block is. And you might take your block and move it to the outside of your left foot. Chair pose, thumbs to the sky is where it starts. This time we stand on our left leg, hugging that outer left hip in, and we just take the right foot across and maybe find the block with the ball of our foot. If it feels like you want to go a little bit deeper into it, bend a little deeper, and then it's like you're seated cross-legged in a chair, and it's kind of cool to have that block there, honestly. Arms out in front of you, and then you could just bring your forearms together, or left elbow on top as you give yourself a hug. Possibly your hands go into that sort of eagle feather look. And we'll stay here in balance for a moment. And we want to think of the outer hips hugging into a midline, so we're not letting it be a wobbly situation. And I bet that block underneath the ball of your right foot is helpful. We'll stay for a few moments here. Unwind your arms, step down with your right foot. Take note of where your block is so you don't trip on it. And we'll actually relocate our blocks to either side of our mat and bring a couple of friends with us. The chair can come, and just in case that's helpful. And I think it's probably going to be a good time to have your folded blanket within reach. Let's make our way from the front edge of our mat facing our chair with our blocks off our mat, but within reach. Chair pose, inhale. And then exhale, hinge at your hips and hands onto your thighs. Inhale, extend your heart forward. You can take your hands onto the seat of your chair or take your blocks now within reach. Step your left foot back. Lower your left knee to your mat, which is where you might want your folded blanket to be. We'll take both blocks inside of our right foot, stacking them, or just use your hands on the seat of your chair. And it's similar to the alignment we were talking about in Warrior Two. We want our right knee over our ankles so it doesn't look like something like this, where your knee is real forward of your ankle. And then it's great to just keep your hands here, humble, where you're both hands inside of your right foot. You'll feel the stretch. You could come onto your forearms, either on your blocks or on your chair. But I'd like you to find a long spine and not feel like you're trying desperately to get your face onto the ground, because that's not what we're doing. If you think about almost doing something like a Sphinx pose, like a little bit of an upper back bend, and I'm not saying to do that with your chin, but with your chest, that might be the recipe to some length in your spine. We're here for a few moments. Now come up onto your hands if you happen to be on your forearms and transfer one block to the outside of your right foot, one block to the inside, or continue using the seat of your chair. We'll straighten that front leg and curl your right toes back towards you, and then it's a hinge at our hip, not a rounding of our back here also. I like to take my blocks a little forward, but use them as if I was looking for that little upper back bend, and let that and the hinge at my hip get a really sweet stretch along the back of my right leg. And then let's be quiet and meditate here. Now start to bend your right knee. We're going to stay close to the ground for our transition here. So either using the seat of your chair or your blocks, just swoop your right knee next to your left knee and step forward with your left foot. Transition both blocks to the inside of that left foot, or keep your hands on your chair and just make the adjustments that are helpful. I like to stack my blocks. Maybe you've got a different technique. We'll take a peek and make sure that we've got a nice vertical line. And then our humble warrior, which could involve forearms, but likely just remains on your hands. We're humbled in our attempt to find a long spine and not to follow our ego into that, like, I've got to get my head close to the ground scenario. And then I'll be quiet and we'll meditate in a humble way, in humble warrior. Come on your hands if you're on your forearms. And then either a block on either side of your left foot, or you use your chair seat, and we'll straighten that left leg. Dig the heel in, curl your toes back. Remember, hip hinge, length through the spine. You can always walk your blocks forward or your hands forward and think Sphinx pose in the upper back. Silent meditation in this shape for a few moments. And then we'll stay close to the ground here too. Bend your left knee, swoop it back to meet your right. Take your blocks off to the side, and you can move your chair if you feel like it's in the way at all. I like to sit for a cross-legged seat on my folded towel. So you can use your folded towel and then come to a seat upon it, and you could make it as tall and substantial a seat as you'd like. Cross your right shin in front, and then instead of just crossing at the ankles, walk your feet together a little bit. Sit tall, thumbs to the sky, a V shape. Turn to your right, and then just take your left hand outside of your right thigh for a sweet little easy twist here. And every time you inhale, grow tall. Every time you exhale, just a little loving nudge into our twist. And then unwind, and we will cross now the left shin in front. Make sure it's a relatively tight cross, thumbs to the sky, V shape. Twist to your left, right hand outside your left thigh. Every inhale you grow tall, and every exhale, loving nudge into our twist. One more inhale and one more little exhale, nudge. Unwind. And you have the option to stay here in a seated meditation or to lie down in our final Shavasana meditation, as we often do. It's nice sometimes to decide to do one or the other on various days, make it a little bit different. Mostly I want it to be a place where you can rest and digest. Close, maybe cover your eyes if you're in Shavasana. Close, maybe divert your gaze if you're seated. Let yourself let go. If you're lying down in the final Shavasana meditation, start to find your way back. Maybe wiggle your fingers and toes. Collect your knees into your chest. Really slowly. Make your way up to a comfortable seat where we meditators are already waiting for you. And palms up or down, and we take a moment to appreciate. A moment of gratitude, you might say, for how much better we feel after we practice. Body, mind, and spirit. I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for practicing with me, and I look forward to us doing it again together soon.